Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day. Hello. Welcome to my cake kitchen. I'm Gladys, and over here I make simple, informative tutorials to help you navigate cake decorating easily. So we create live tutorials over here from Tuesday through to Thursday. In between Mondays and Fridays, Saturdays, there is shorts for you to watch. And then Sundays, there is a regular long form video covering all cake subjects from baking to decorating, and some vlog style videos bringing you behind the scenes of my cake decorating activities. So if we're meeting for the first time, hello there. I hope you will consider joining the channel. We are growing, and hopefully you will stick with us. You will join the fun. We have so much fun. You'll be surprised how much fun it's going to be. I'm not going to waste your time. As you can see on my work table, it's been a busy morning, but this is not unusual. This is a continuation of something we were doing yesterday. We're making a burger cake, and this cake we made yesterday right here on the live, which will be the previous video that you'll be the video you will see before this. So after watching this, you probably want to check the description box, or a recommendation will be made for you for the next video, which is the bun we did yesterday. We started with a lump of cake that looked like a cake a cake loaf, right? A stale cake loaf that we squished together, and somehow we ended up with this. I called myself a miracle worker, except I'm not Jesus and I don't create the miracles. I can't feed 5,000 people, but what I can do, baby, is turn a cake from one thing to another. And boy, haven't we done a few here. We've made a flower vase cake with simplistic details. We've also made a weathered pot cake. All of those are in-depth tutorials that takes you from the process from start to finish, making it a learning resource for a complete beginner to undertake if they only have the confidence to just start. So if you're getting into cake decorating and you want to refine your skills, these are resources. They're littered on the lives, which brings you behind the scene into the kitchen with me. I'm literally stood in my UK-based home kitchen. I bake all my customer cakes here. I also undertake tutorials and decorating activities right here. So whilst this is a learning resource and a tutorial live for you to see here on camera, you are literally in my kitchen with me. And most of the things you see me do are actually things that I will do whether the camera is on or not. And the intention for doing that is bringing you a relatable, sort of realistic representation of the cake decorating process. If you've been here, we're a bit crazy. We bring you all the stuff that happens unfiltered. Yesterday, our bun literally went flying, and that's not the first time a cake actually flew off. I've made mistakes on the lives. I have had when we were making the Russian pie, we made a whole flower bouquet and it flew away and the cakes were everywhere. Tapeta, one of our friends in the group chat here, will tell you all about it. It's fun, it's chaotic, but we do learn a lot of stuff, which is what cake decorating should be about. Now I'm going to stop banging on, and then we're going to jump right into what's been happening here. I recognize that whilst we undertook a lot of techniques to complete this yesterday, many a time when I am undertaking the tutorial, it's kind of difficult to engage. So where possible, I make room to kind of engage with you in the chat. So for all of you in the chat who are just joining us, Tapeta, good morning, lovely. How are you? How is mom? I know mom is sleeping. Tapeta's mom is with her, so that's a thing we have. Look, you can bring your family, you can join in here. We are a family friendly group, okay? We create a safe space here, and whilst the main subject is cake decorating, we talk about all sorts. We talk about our finances and the debts that we are involved in. Hello, Tapeta, I see you. We talk about what we like. Those who like Earl Grey tea, Tapeta, it's you again. Those who love a cup of tea, those who love a hot dark chocolate drink, all sorts. We talk about anything, and then occasionally we throw in a bit of pop culture news. So we do talk about Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, but I'm bored to death with that nonsense. And plus, to be honest, I find that this space here is safe so that we can switch off from the noise of the world. And that Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds thing has had me distracted from reading my Bible. It's a mess. It's interfering with my life. So I'm done with it. I'm done. Justin, I wish you well. I hope you win, and I hope the truth prevails. Okay, that's all I've got to say. But anyway, let's get back to cake making, shall we? It's mad. Oh my goodness. Listen to Tabitha. Listen to Tabitha. So whilst we're at it, oh, that was a tangent, wasn't it? Okay, whilst we're at it, can we have a conversation about what's happening here? So we made the burger, we painted it. You want to see all the details on the previous live, right? And then we had the burger. You know, when you're making a burger cake, you have the bun, the top part, and then you have the bottom part. So then after yesterday, I went away, and then the bottom part, I tried to bring some simplistic details to see how we can do this. As you can see, it's a little bit of a mess, but don't worry. If you watch the previous video, you will see how the painting is undertaken. Our painting kind of took a little bit of a detour. It wasn't quite linear. The reason being, I didn't have my colors organized. I wasn't sure what I was doing. But if you're a beginner starting the process, those are real challenges you will face. Plus, this is the very first time I am making a burger cake in a beginner-friendly way, employing complete beginner techniques, because normally, as an advanced and a professional cake artist, I do have some tools that will assist me. For this cake, those tools went to sleep. Okay, we are not employing any tools. So the texture you see here are all made by hand and with the help of a kitchen foil and cling film. So if you want to see how the cake is painted and decorated to achieve this texture, you want to check the previous video. I also said a few things that might help you whilst we're at it. If you're making a realistic object like a cake or something that you can represent from an actual item, a good tip for a beginner is to consider representing the item in a way that is open to interpretation. So for instance, yesterday before we started, I brought a photo of a burger, and because I printed the burger on a wafer paper sheet, it's been wet and it's torn, but ignore that. If you can see the photos of the burgers we're seeing here, the burgers are not a one way of presenting, right? They come in all sorts, and even if we narrow the photos down to our own individual preferences, you will know that burgers come in all sorts. I may like a brioche bun, you may like a what do you call it? You know what? I had a bun yesterday. I forgot the name. Some days my brain goes, that's it. Okay, so I may like a toasted brioche bun. You may just like a plain white bun. Some people may like a roll. Some people may like different other things. So the idea for you as a beginner is, if you are undertaking a thing like a burger cake, do not be worried about representing the thing in its real form, because there's a name for that, and it's called hyper realistic. If you throw in the description hyper realistic, you are putting yourself in a category that will require expert fine skills. So if you put making a hyper realistic cake, it means you are trying to represent the item in its exact form or very close to likeness, which can be very difficult, especially if you're a beginner, because you have to build your skill with time and experience. So for a beginner, my biggest tip for undertaking any of these real actual item projects is empowering you with the mindset that you can create an item but open it slightly to interpretation. By so doing, you are able to incorporate your own errors and mistakes as part of the process without losing confidence in it. So for instance, when we wanted to make the flower pot cake, we had an inspiration item, which is this terracotta plastic pot here. And if you've seen a flower pot, you will know what I am talking about exactly. However, during the process, our fondant broke really badly. It cracked, and I couldn't seem to cover it properly. Now, if I was making that cake for a customer, my processes would have been slightly different, in that I would be very organized, and if I had a mistake, because I had already discussed the product or the item with the customer, it will befall me to sort of try and meet that expectation. So by so doing, if my fondant cracked, which normally happens anyway in the decorating process, I would have to take my time, no matter how tired and frustrated I feel, and then strip the entire fondant off and reset the item and get it to the exact sort of element I am aiming for. The good thing about these tutorials are that because they are aimed at a complete beginner who might just want to understand the processes, I open it to the realistic situations that may happen. So I don't prep beforehand. Today is slightly different. I'll come to that. I don't prep beforehand. I literally walk in the kitchen like I would if I was just organizing my day for a baking process. So you get to see me in my very vulnerable, authentic way. So it kind of makes it open to a few mistakes, because one thing you don't want to do during decoration is not to stay meticulously organized. But if I stayed meticulously organized, that wouldn't be very aspirational for you, because in a way you'd be missing the raw elements of the process, which I hope to bring to you as a beginner. So because of that, when the fondant broke, I had the advantage. I had the disadvantage of showing up in a very disorganized way to undertake this tutorial. But the advantage was that because the cake wasn't for a customer, I had the advantage of reinterpreting the item and adapting it, incorporating the mistake. So we went from the idea of a polished sort of terracotta plastic pot cake to a very weathered pot cake that actually ended up being amazing and fantastic. I say all that to say, most importantly, as a beginner, do not be bogged down by the fine details. We all start from somewhere. You'd be surprised that this process of teaching has actually taught me new things, in that whilst I would have undertaken these processes using expert skills and tools, now I am able to face these things first time, employing very stripped back beginner friendly techniques to kind of bring these tutorials to life. And the experience I have within my own fears and insecurity about undertaking this project will probably be similar or same to you if you're a beginner starting this process. So this is a small way of saying I encourage you to undertake a decoration of a thing that you can do and see how you go. If you fail, you will get back up again. Now back to the subject here of the prep work. The reason being, yesterday we painted this cake and it does take quite a bit of time to do. Plus there are layers and layers, and it's still a similar process to do this. So I thought I would skip repeating the entire process all over and then do this a little bit before starting the class. And that is because that will allow me the opportunity to be able to also engage in the chat without dragging the tutorial on longer than it really needs. But we do have a bit of fun here, so you are not missing anything at all besides what you are seeing here. That said, I have learned a few things, in that the painting technique can be very difficult, can be very challenging if you don't know what you're doing. For a beginner, I will encourage you to have a selection of different brushes. You don't need expert brushes to start with. You can pick regular art related brushes. For the ones primary school people use, you can get them from Amazon, but just make sure that they are not ones that lose their brittles a little bit, okay, so that you don't introduce them into the food. You will find that much of my painting is done with 3 brushes. That is also why I skipped painting today, because by using such a limited number of brushes, I am unable to change them very quickly, which means that the colors tend to blend and don't give me a realistic representation of what I am looking for. Plus, if you watch the other video from yesterday, you'll find that yesterday some of my colors were unavailable. I didn't have yellow colors and I have no idea about my color wheel. Look, I am just a mess out here, okay? So that is just a little bit of inspiration to say, behind the expertly made cakes, it's a person who just has the same flaws as you. So you go try and find out what you can find for yourself. That said, I was also talking about the painting. I kind of thought to myself, because the painting can be a little bit technical, in that you have to find a particular way by dotting. In painting, it's called stippling. You're not like stroking the paint over, because then you're going to leave dents and texture. So the brush has to be soft, and all you're doing is stippling that patiently. So you know what, if you want to undertake painting of a food item to a closer representation of what you might interpret as the real food, put on a podcast or your favorite thing to listen to and zone out and just go do it. it is fun, you'll see. But to kind of take that away, especially for a burger, I just found out that you can find a simple trick to cut the whole painting process, which is that if you look closely at the bottom of the bun, right? If you look over here, this looks like a bun that has been toasted and burnt and it's saucy, okay? That's my interpretation. Don't come at me. But if you see over here, you can see it's darker, it's a little bent. And then you look here and it looks a little more plain, and you have the brown crusty bits that will look like toasted bread. This is not painting. This part I left the top as is, and I achieved these brown bits by just introducing a blowtorch. Now this might seem like an expert tool, but I picked it up on Amazon, I think for $14.99 or something like that. You fill it up with some gas in here. I don't know what sort of gas. I'll leave some details in the description box. But if you watch the other video from yesterday, you will see me sort of fill this up. And all you have to do is turn it up and then try, and it doesn't blow so much. It's controlled. You have a knob here that controls the heat for you. So you can kind of use that to burn some bits of the fondant. Well, some people use modeling chocolate. Modeling chocolate is great medium because then you can mold it to get some fine textures and representations. I choose fondant because the fondant gives me room to create sort of burn textures without melting completely, whereas modeling chocolate kind of softens at the introduction of heat. So that's something to note. So if you're a beginner and you wanted to create a toasted bun and you really didn't care for undertaking the entire painting, you can use a blowtorch to kind of highlight it a little bit. By so doing, you take away the use of an airbrush, because this for $14.99, which is not just used for what I'm doing here, you can use it in different type of baking and decorating activities anyway. But using this, you save yourself some money, plus you avoid the hassle of using an airbrush. Do I have an airbrush kit? Yes, I do. I do have decorating airbrush kit for decorating, but for beginners, I don't recommend it because it will be an extra expense and an extra skill to pick up. And remember, we're doing this very stripped back. So today, what I found that I wanted to tell you is to use a blowtorch. So look. Let's see, bear with me. Look. See, you're getting the toasted bun look. Do you see what I'm saying? Right? So you do the highlight over here. So if I was making a pizza cake or something, this will be fantastic because it will give me the nice burn. A good tip also, if you want to get like a crispier, darker burn, to highlight what you're doing, you can spread brown sugar or granulated sugar, because then the sugar will caramelize at on the heat, and then it will create a nice texture and surface for you. So that is a tip for you to take away about the painting and deriving your cake, that your bottom bun. That's it. Let's see what is happening in the chat. Bear with me. Sometimes when I'm in the when I'm busy giving the information, I miss what is in the chat, and sometimes you're asking me questions. Tapeta, Clayton, you're asking if I've ever made a truffle cake. No, I haven't made a truffle cake before. I'm sure if I considered it, I would try. If I did try, I could make it. The reason is because it's never been in my peripherals, but who knows? As we are developing, at some point I'll come back and bake some of your recommended items. We don't just bake here, we decorate as well. And outside of coming here and doing tutorials and all that stuff, there's real life also happening, and then there's editing and there's other stuff. So I can't do all things. So no, I haven't made a truffle cake before, but if you stick around for a little while, maybe in future, I'll come back and do that. So I hope, Clayton, that is reassuring. My dear Lollipop just entered the chat. How are you today, darling? Great to have you. It occurred to me, I can't see the yin. I saw the yin. Where was the yang? Which is, Tapita is here. Where is Lollipop? And then there's Lollipop in the chat. So Lollipop, good afternoon. How are you? Still waiting. Okay, so Lollipop, the mixer came, did it? Come tell us all about it. And have you made your buttercream? Lollipop is a friend to the chat and the channel. And Lollipop is undertaking some baking activities. She's got herself a hand mixer. So we are just catching up on that. And if you do want to know what we're talking about, drop in the chat and let's see what you have to say. You're still waiting for the hand mixer. Please don't hand mix buttercream. That will be a mess. It will be too much. Pete, hey, darling. Good afternoon. You've got a question about baking. Pete, go ahead. If I defer your question, I want to dedicate time to answering it. But Pete, go ahead. Okay? Pete, put your question through. Let's see. What's up, Pete? Okay, Tapita is keeping. Oh, Amazon failed to deliver for Lollipop yesterday. Lollipop, did they show up or they didn't? Because, you know, sometimes you're home, but they don't come. And then they put it as a failed delivery. Anyway, that is just by the way. So, Tapita and Lollipop. I was talking about the blowtorch. The blowtorch, you can get it if you want. But can you do without it? Certainly. Another thing I learned this morning, or something I picked up this morning, talking about my disorganized activity from yesterday. I didn't have brown. I did have brown color. I was going to say I didn't have brown color. I do have dark brown color, right? But my dark brown color has had other colors mixed into it. Why? Because I have ended up introducing different colors accidentally. So it blends on a very dark green tone, which is why I have this sort of messy look here. So my brown is not as brown as I would like it. So guess what I did today? I found out if you mix just a touch of coffee with alcohol, it can create a nice brown base for you to use for painting. That's just a little bit. In cake decorating and cake baking, there are some sort of personal and religious preferences for not using alcohol. So yes, I won't be using alcohol for painting or anything to do with anybody who has a specific requirement to not touch alcohol or use alcohol. But for those of you who have the liberty, yes. If you don't have brown color, drop some coffee granules in a bit of alcohol, right? I have a bottle of vodka here. If I tell you I don't drink, believe me, I have a whole bottle of vodka right here. And what is it for? For painting or cake related stuff. But you know, we could literally go to drink and go to sleep too. How is that? Maybe. Don't give me any ideas. But that is just by the way. So that is a bit of brown over there. P is asking, like I still have, right? Pete is asking a question. So Pete said, so what do you do if you accidentally mixed sugar with baking powder and salt? You mix sugar with baking powder and salt, but made a new batch of crinkle cookies. Right, I'll take the question again. P is asking, what do you do if you accidentally mixed sugar with baking powder and salt, kept in a container, but made a batch of crinkle cookies? Did you use that to make crinkle cookies, or you're thinking of making crinkle cookies? I understand the first part, which is that you mix sugar with baking powder and salt. First of all, I'm interested in how that happened. Were you measuring them? Because they don't accidentally. I'm interested in how that happened. And then for those of you in the chat, help me answer P. What do you do if you mix sugar with baking powder and salt? What do you do, right? If you have any thoughts, leave it in the chat. I am sure Tapita and Lollipop will be a helpful hand. Pete, enjoy the inputs there whilst I get my head around this. Because first of all, I'm trying to understand how that happened. Because as a baker, yes, there are days I'm trying to measure, say, self-raising flour. And then I accidentally measure plain flour because the containers are the same. And then I have say plain baking soda added to the flour, and I'm like, oops, maybe I don't need baking soda. So for me, I would normally put that to the side until I am developing or making a recipe that can tolerate a little bit of adaptation, and then I'll reuse it, right? But sugar, baking powder, and salt, how did that happen? Is it an accident? Everything spilled and you had to collect them? My brain is kind of a little bit like, I don't know what's happened there. But Tapita and Lollipop, I'm counting on you to save P out of this one. Okay, so he made some crinkle cookies. You're supposed to mix the sugar with oil first, okay, as well as the eggs and cocoa, then dry ingredients. Okay, you know what? I know nothing about, oh, okay, I have had crinkle cookies. I know it's the cookies you make and then you put them and then they sort of rise up and there are crinkles on it. They're like, yeah, I kind of have an idea what they are. I haven't tried them, so I can't visually kind of work out what a recipe and process looks like anyway. So I am probably limited on this one. Here, we are open to saying, I don't know yet. I'll come back and tell you all about it. So right now, I don't have any opinion on it. If anyone is in the chat and can assist you, great. But if you don't find the answer you want, perhaps if you stick around long enough, maybe on our next live, I will touch on the subject and be able to inform you better. But I trust that Tapita and the girls can help you in the chat. Okay, so that conversation is going. But that said, what I finished here was the coffee and alcohol for the brown base to paint. Also, yesterday when we were talking about the items that goes into a burger, I did mention that some of the things you can make close to realistic. Some things you open them to interpretation. So as you can see, we have cheese here. It is closer to what I have in the pack, you know. Does this look like a tomato? Hell no, okay? But it's red, so we're gonna make it work. These are just fondant that are sort of kneaded together, and then I created a circle out of it, and then I used a circle cutter to cut it, and then I cut it into two, because we are not going to use that into the cake completely. We're just going to leave it on the edges of the cake, which will kind of show. So I am not particularly worried about the tomato over here. Now we are supposed to have onions. Now, does that look like an onion? No, okay? But the idea is to just create the illusion of an onion. Can I make onions as a matter of fact? Yes. But remember, some items require fine techniques and skills to complete, and because we are making this to be beginner friendly for everyone who wants to attempt this, we are employing techniques and ways to kind of bring that intention to light. So how did I do this? I basically picked up a bit of fondant, as you can see, created a marble look. So pick white fondant, added the purple color, mixed it so that it's not fine, and then rolled it up, cut circles into it, and then created the grooves and the lines and dabbed it with a bit of purple color. That's all, because essentially it's going to be sticking out on the corner, so we are just looking for small detail. Exactly. So this will do for the onion. I think the biggest thing here is the lettuce. There are so many ways you can make lettuce. So many ways. Do I have a pro way of deriving the lettuce? Definitely. Did I think of a beginner-friendly way? Sure. That's what I did. So for a beginner, you can create the lettuce from a roll of fondant. Okay. Just dye fondant green and then roll it out and cut it into strips. But sometimes you think, whilst we want to make it beginner-friendly, we also want to bring some sort of dimension and depth to the cake, especially with our bun looking all nice. So what can you do? What I did was I picked wafer paper, and then I printed the wafer paper front to be green, as in one green, and then I turned the same wafer paper on the back and printed that a very light green. So I tore it this morning. I will put parts of these into a short form video so you can see. So if you look at this wafer paper, the color here is fairly different from the color there. The simple thing is that I printed it. So wafer papers come as A4 sheets. You can order them. So you can order green wafer paper if you don't want to use fondant. You can use fondant. Like I said, color some green fondant and then cut them into small pieces. That's all. But I went for the wafer paper technique because it's easier and it brings depth and dimension to the letters. So you you get the wafer paper, print it out front and back, 2 different tones of green. And then what I did was I tore it up. Essentially, I printed it, left it to set from yesterday. Because when you print wafer paper, the ink sort of makes it a little bit wet. And then I tore it into small strips. That's all. When you go and you buy lettuce that is chopped, it looks like that, doesn't it? A little bit green for lettuce because lettuce are a little lighter. But like I said, it's neither here nor there. What I did was this morning, I sprayed some water on the wafer paper to make them a little bit floppy. And I dusted it with cornstarch to bring some sort of white texture and depth to them. Does that look exactly like lettuce? Not exactly, but close enough that if it's in the burger and it's shot as a photo, I don't think you will notice the difference, especially if you're a beginner undertaking it. And that's a beginner-friendly way of doing that. Now, let's go into the chat and see what other questions we have over there. Okay, right, so we are still talking about the crinkle cookies. I am so sorry, I have no idea about how to make crinkle cookies. Never made them. So, but you know what? Some things in baking and decorating, you'll find that they're easily forgiven. Something like a cookie. So for instance, if you've ended up mixing your sugar with salt and baking powder, I'm sure it will survive, because there are some things in baking which does not allow room for mistakes. Macarons, hello. They are very unforgiving. You almost have to stay pedantic to the process and technique. But a cookie, if you reverse the ingredients and mix this with that, worst case, you just get a slight change in texture. But otherwise, I am sure it will work. But that's based set in my opinion and inexperience. Don't take my word for it, Pete. Okay? I hope you still get some help, though. I think sometimes in baking, the mistakes work better. You ask me, I'll tell you. Anyway, that's aside. We have the lettuce made. And just so you see what the lettuce looked like. These were the strips I tore. Yeah? You just tear the strips. And that's it. So if you decide to use the wafer paper technique like I did here, perhaps my little advice here is to make sure you print the wafer paper lighter than I did. I got the front darker and the back lighter, but it seems like the darker green has sort of taken precedence. So just ensure that you get a lighter tone of green. What would you say are some unforgiving mistakes in baking? Well, some unforgiving mistakes in baking is, I'm trying to think. For instance, if you were baking bread, right, and you introduced the salt with your yeast, the salt will kill the yeast. So sometimes you will end up with a thicker dough. But in terms of, say, making macarons, the technique is derived to support this very precious looking cookie. So, for instance, if it calls for macarons, the process generally, like this is just a summary just to give you some sort of idea. So, say if you're making macarons and it calls for dropping your sugar in the meringue whilst it's whipping to create the meringue. If you lump the entire sugar into the egg white, you will deflate the air bubbles, because what you should understand is what the technique is trying to derive. There is reason to the madness, because the technique of creating macarons is this. I do this in my head and then I have to verbalize it. So I'm like a child trying to find my words because that's not my expertise, but I understand the process. So for instance, macarons rely on the strands of egg white proteins to stretch and also trap air whilst also using the sugar to build structure. That's an oversimplistic explanation of what happens here. So you have to meticulously, where you see a chef or an instructor, literally poke. Let's move on, okay? This is the second time my happy cup has broken, okay? People, you owe me a cup. The mess happens really in the kitchen, people. The mess does happen. Look, I have tea spilled over here and my cup is broken, but let's move, okay? Let me try and not step on this. Okay, the game is moving on. So when you see an instructor who is meticulously whipping the egg white and then you see them with a spoon trying to add the sugar bits by bit, you might think, oh, this is just too long, let me dump the sugar. If you do that, you're going to overwork the egg white and kill its ability to stretch out and absorb the sugar to build structure. So you need to add the sugar bits by bit. It will also call for you using, say, sometimes caster sugar, which has finer granules compared to granulated sugar. And that is because that also allows the sugar to dissolve in the process, right? Depending on what recipe you're using for macarons. So for that, if you decided to adapt it slightly because you made a mistake and accidentally dumped the sugar, don't expect any great results for your macarons because the core stages of building structure for your macaron cookie has been disturbed by this sort of mistake, if you mean. Whereas if I was making a cake, right, and I was making a chiffon cake that also relies on egg white, and I dumped the sugar in the meringue, it is a little more forgiving because I have a different set of base that will support the structure of the cake, if you like. So what I'm saying here is that some processes in cake decorating can be a little forgiving, but you have to have an understanding of the baking process, the technique, and at least a peek into the science of it. For instance, if you're required to add sour cream to a cake batter, should you add it first or last? It really doesn't matter. But what matters is the recipe you are using. For instance, if you're using a liquid to dry base recipe where you have to derive the liquid base and then add it to the dry base, adding the sour cream or creme fraiche now or later really doesn't make a difference whatsoever. Whereas if you are supposed to be deriving the batter by creaming method, if you add the liquid last and it struggles to mix, I'm talking liquid as in either milk, yogurt, or sour cream, by the time you add the flour and everything, if you add the sour cream last and it struggles to mix, the introduction of liquid is going to start interfering with the development of gluten. So if you add liquid last, you should be careful not to overmix. But if you add, say, your sour cream to a batter that has already been made and prepped, and then you add your sour cream, you're going to overmix the batter. Plus, the introduction of fluid, as in liquid in there, is going to toughen your batter. But that is because you have to understand it. Some days when I've made a mistake and reversed it, because I understand the science of it, it can be forgiven. So I think saying that some baking processes can be forgiven is also noting and having an understanding of the science of baking and why certain things work certain way. That's a long-winded way of answering the question as I broke my cup into on top of that, but just saying. So oh, can you, okay, so P, can you substitute butter with vegetable oil in baking? P, okay, it's yes and no, right? But let me just wipe my tea here and stick around. I'll be answering that question for you in a minute, P, okay? It's yes and no. Okay, I'll tell you why it's a yes, I'll tell you why it's a no. Okay, let's come to that. But if Tapita or anyone can help Pete and answer their question, I will be answer his question. I will be pleased with that too. If you can't find me on screen, it's because I had an accident in my kitchen. I spilled tea and I broke my cup and I'm not happy, right? So now you guys all know, if you're thinking of buying me a gift, just buy me a teacup. This is the second time. I bought this one in Tesco. It was on a sale for £4 and it fell and it broke, and I bought the same one. I am a creature of habits. And then today it's broken again. I like a big cup of tea. I don't like the small things, you know? So anyway, let's move on from my tea. P, I will answer you in a moment, but in the meantime, I'll leave you in the lovely hands of Tapita, who has been baking since she was in Mama's womb. So she tries to tell me I'm the person who encourages her, but that's all untrue. Tapita is a fantastic baker. I love her. Okay, right? Oh, okay, Tapita, you're out here employing blended stuff. Okay, fantastic. Now let's talk this bad guy here. We were making a burger cake. We weren't thinking of doing all of this, okay? But I thought, how is it that we're having a burger without chips, okay? And these chips are easy to make as a beginner, okay? Take my word for it. So this is a roll of fondant, okay? A roll of fondant. I just added a little bit of yellow and Tylose powder. If you don't know Tylose powder, go watch the other videos. It's CMC gum powder. Not gunpowder, gum, okay? Gum powder, CMC, Tylose powder. It is added to fondant to help set it so it can dry hard. Fondant, as you can know, is pliable and very soft. But if you add CMC, you can set it. If you set it, you can use it for models, like say fondant elements like toppers on a cake and different sort of stuff. So if you're making a human figurine, you would put CMC or Tylose in your fondant to be able to create the figurine. That said, I've just added CMC or Tylose powder into fondant, lightly colored yellow, and I've rolled it and squished it, left it on the side to set. So as you can see, it is set. But to bring some sort of depth to the chips that you can see here, chips are not always very fine when you buy them. Again, this is completely open to interpretation for you. If you go to McDonald's and you buy McDonald's chips, you have them there. First of all, each chip is not crispy. It's not the same. They are not even. You have bigger ones. Even though they are skinny, they are not the same. You have longer ones, you have shorter ones. They are a mixed bag, if you like. So if you welcome that intention of texture and variety, it means you are not aiming for a finely cut chip. It won't even look like a chip. Now, do you like the skinny chip? Do you like the potato chips? Whatever you like. Bring your own intention and preferences to the art you are creating. So with the lightly colored yellow fondant, to bring a bit of texture, I like country chip. Okay, just to make it simple for you, would I choose McDonald's chips or Five Guys? I like Five Guys. Okay, Five Guys because it has the skin, it is crispy, it's oily, it's a mess, but I love it anyway. So if I wanted Five Guys chips without the skin, what would it look like? It will look rustic, it won't look polished, it won't look fine. It has variety. So by employing that intention, I wanted to bring some texture to the fondant. By just rolling fondant itself and cutting it, it's too fine. But as you can see, this is textured a little bit. It's not fine, it's very rustic. How did I get that? You can add stuff to the fondant to create that texture, from Rice Krispies, as in plain Rice Krispies, to sugar, or even dry fondant. You can dry some of this fondant so it's so hard and crispy. You add it to the fresh fondant, you mix it together. What it does is it's going to form textures in the fondant. But what I did, because I didn't have time to dry fondant and I didn't have any crusty plain looking fondant, what I did was I just grated some white chocolate. Okay, white chocolate and added it to the fondant. So if you look closely in this fondant, you can see bits in there. That's white chocolate added to the fondant and mixed together. That is because when the white chocolate gets into the fondant, it won't melt because there's no medium to melt it, and it won't stretch out. It just creates dots in it, which sort of will help create the texture. And by so doing, you leave the fondant to set. And these chips are made out of this. I'll show you how I did that. I'll show you how I did that. So there. What you have to do, can you see the work table? I'm just worried you may not be able to see me. Right, can you see my work table? Right, so with the fondant, you need a very sharp blade. I have this one here, because what you don't want is anything that will create a blunt edge to your chip, right? So with the sharp blade, I am cutting through it finely, and that's what you get, right? Now, can you see the texture I was saying? That's what you see, the white chocolate in there, right? Can you see the grain? You can see white chocolate. So with the cut edge, I go back and I cut it open again. Can you see? Now you can see the grain properly, right? And then I'll cut it back again. So at this point, if you wanted a more skinnier chip, there you go. Right? So that is essentially a bit of imagination, technique, and will to try. I have never tried chips like this before. You would think that making them requires a lot of technique. And when I looked online for research purposes, there's quite different ways of doing them. But essentially, it's just a bit of imagination and ways to bring texture. Can you see the different ways you can do that? Yeah? So essentially, these look like raw chips, isn't it? They look white and they look raw. There you are, right? So when you do this, I'm going to show you what you can do to bring, elevate them a little bit. Again, back to what I was saying. You can color these yellow if you want. Just brush a bit of yellow on them. I have yellow here. It's not proper yellow. Don't judge me, right? And look. If I could get just dents of yellow on it. But that is going to take me time. And if you haven't noticed, I don't have time. Half of the time I need to go. Pete, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. I hope you found some help. Quick answer to the oil, and can you substitute oil for butter? It's a yes, where the recipe you are using calls for oil, right? You can substitute it not with runny solid butter, but with, say, melted butter, right? You can melt the butter. So whilst it calls for oil, you can melt your butter, same quantity to replace with the oil. It will work. But what will not work is if the technique is completely different and it's requiring oil. Because remember, whilst oil and butter are fat, they are in different forms. Oil is runny, it brings texture, it brings makes the cake a little more delicate, and at room temperature you still have a softer cake, whereas butter goes to sets at room temperature even post baking. So a cake that has butter at its base is going to yield you a slightly different result in terms of texture. Oil is more delicate, but butter is more flavorful. But in terms of technique, if it's requiring the creamy method, you can't substitute butter for oil. Does that make sense? But you can always melt the butter to substitute the same quantity of oil, depending on what technique. So that's an overly simplified way. But here's a recommendation for you. If you're just starting baking, stick to the recipe and what it calls for. I hope that helps. Have a good one, and we'll catch you tomorrow, P. All right? Now, back to our chips over here. How can you get them looking a little more fried and burnt and rustic for yourself, right? Let's get our very handy tool here. First of all, I'm going to sprinkle some sugar over there. Look at me. I'm sprinkling some sugar. This is just granulated sugar. And then I'm going to go for, look, when you sprinkle the sugar, you get a little more toast as in texture to your can you see what I'm doing? So this look like homemade sort of grilled chips a little bit, but you can also paint this by using brown color. You can paint it by using brown color. Hope that helps. Right, let's see. For the brown color, I still have the coffee here. Right, so here, look, I'm using the coffee, the brown coffee I made. Oh, yeah, so you get that, and then I'm highlighting the sides a little bit. Yeah, essentially that's our chips done. What do you think? Would you eat this chip? Yep, Tapita, you're welcome. Okay, so that's how we made the chips. I've literally talked you through everything we need to make, and I also made some pickle, green fondant with a dusting of food coloring. Okay, now does that look like pickle? No. Okay, it doesn't, but we are looking to create the illusion of a pickle. That aside, Gladys, don't cause any more chaos in the kitchen. Okay? Don't cause any more chaos. Don't cause any more. Who wants creme brulee? Tapita, you just upgraded and went all posh on me. I thought you and I were living the commonest life here. If you get a very decent creme brulee made, right? Jeez. That stuff is so good. Essentially, do you realize creme brulee is literally custard with a crispy top? That's an oversimplification of it. But the whole idea of creme brulee is the process of custard making. Okay? How you make custards. And then you sit it in a boiling, a bain-marie, a double boiler. And then it cooks till it sets. And then you sprinkle sugar on the top. So, creme brulee is a set custard, as in a jiggly custard with a crispy caramel top. Have I ruined it for you? Okay, that's all. Right. Oh, you've never had creme brulee? Well, Tapita, you're a baker and you undertake some specialized baking. The way you make custard, okay? Essentially, if you know how to make homemade custards, if you follow the exact same recipe with a few tweaks on it, you should be able to make creme brulee. It's essentially custard that is left to set. I think what makes a difference is the ratio of egg yolk and the cream, and because when you cook it, it's almost like it's allowed to set. The same way you guys make, is it the broke or whatever cheesecake sort of thing? and then it's taken out and then caramelized on top. But don't quote me, I'm oversimplifying it, but it is caramelized custard. Okay, it is. Yeah, I guess you don't need, apparently you don't need a blowtorch for it anyway. If you don't have one, you can put it under a grill when it's baked, but I guess under the grill you have to keep an eye on it like a hawk. But you can do it under a grill. The blowtorch is sort of fancy, and I think the reason why people use professionals use the blowtorch is that because creme brulee is served in ramekins, you can't get the same sort of evenness to it when you're using a grill, and the tendency to burn it is higher if you use a grill, because then the professional ovens will get really hot and no one has time to be looking at it, right? So the torch sort of makes it for convenience and a more colorful presentation. But yeah, essentially it's set caramelized custard. That aside, we are going to start putting our burger cake together. Okay, let me get my, oh, and by the way, I did make some sauce. And the sauce is simply, it is redder than ketchup, so let's just call this house-made red sauce, and it's essentially jam with a bit of food coloring in it. It's just jam. So it's seedless, it's actually strawberry jam with some seeds in it. I just sieved the seeds out. Now we have the jam fine as it is, and I've just added a bit of coloring to it. So let's see if we can put our burger together. Now in my mind I'm thinking I have a cake board, but I'm just trying to take away that thought. So let's see, you know what I'm like. Can't be asked. Okay, so that's a burger, a paper over there. We have the bottom base of our burger in here. Now if you were putting a burger together, how would you put it? Right, I have some sauce. Sometimes you want to put the burger sauce, people will say different sorts of sauce, which will be buttercream. I can do that, but I don't have that, so I'm just going to put the sauce here. And the next thing will be, let's start here. Right, because we have the lettuce, I'm just arranging small bits here. I have cut them unevenly, so there's no rhyme or reason to this. I'm going for some of the big bits here. I kind of feel like if it was lighter, it would be better, but we are past that point now. So, right, there you go. And then we have our burger patty. If you want to know how we did that, you want to check the video from yesterday. Okay, there you go. And next we have our cheese. The way burger is put is just based on individual preference. So I'm like, no, on the lettuce, let me put some cheese in here. Let me put a tomato there, right? And we have an onion. Okay, and with that we have more cheese here. We still have tomato here. Where is our pickle? We have pickle here. Who says we need pickle? Okay. And onion. What else do we need? Some more. Right, and then do we need some more cheese? What do you think? I think we need some more cheese here. Okay, there you go. And then actually I'm just adding some sauce here. Now that's just what we call it, in-house red sauce. It doesn't have to be to your preference or likeness. We're just adding sauce to our burger. It looks like barbecue sauce more than anything, isn't it? What do you think? Does it look like a burger you would eat? Lollipop and Tapeta having fun in the chat, right? And then don't forget, for a cake like this, you might probably want to do yourself a favor by having a dowel in it, because remember the cake was made from cake scraps, so structurally it's not really strong. But I think the rice crispy treat from which we made the patty will help us. So I'm just going to put the top of the burger on there, right? What do you people think? Are we looking at a burger that you will eat? Right. I'm just tearing part of the paper here. Now, our burger cake is nearly put together. Well, it is put together. Just wiping to get the coloring off, because any sort of color that is introduced now will just ruin everything, and we don't want that. Where is my... Okay, I'll tell you. One last thing we have to help us get this to the finish line is a little bit of syrup. And this is sugar syrup, corn syrup mixed with vodka. Okay, that just brings the burger a shine to the burger, so that the burger looks like, okay, it looks oily, it looks real. Okay, that is alcohol. And oh Christ, what have I done? Okay, so that's alcohol and sugar, syrup. Okay, so what do we think about our burger cake? Oh God, calorie dense, no bake. You are terrible. You are terrible, Tapeta. Calorie dense, no bake. I wasn't expecting that. Okay, so that is our burger cake. For a beginner, right? If you're a beginner and you made this, You should be proud of yourself. Okay? Look at me, trying to burn the kitchen down now. Okay, now we are trying to bring some texture to the cheese. We're trying to make it look burnt a little bit. Don't try this at home, children. Don't try this at home, kids. Okay? You know what? I want to torch everything here right now. I want to torch everything. It's burning. Okay. Okay. That's a giant burger, right? People, come here. You are invited to the group chat. Now let's talk about the burger. What do you think? Now let's put some chips on the side. Okay. Where is my torch? I feel like I want to torch everything. Let's see. Okay. Okay, there you go. Now, people, you're invited to the class. Now, let's leave a review about our cake. What do you think? People, let's rate our cake. After all that effort, what do we think? Okay. You guys make me look good. Okay. For a beginner, I will say go easy on the coloring. Okay. The mix of our... Anyway, this looks like Five Guys any day. Anyway, the burger is oily. It's a mess. I love it anyway. Okay. And please don't go for red sauce. The red sauce just makes it bleed, okay? Just go for the brown sauce nonetheless. You need to get the brown sauce nonetheless, not the red sauce, because the red sort of bleeds into the cake. But outside of that, keep the color light, okay? So use the blowtorch if you have to. But the problem with being unorganized for our coloring has sort of affected the outcome a little bit. But that's just me critiquing me, okay? I think I got a little bit handsy with the sauce. So it's creating darker shadows. But otherwise, if I was a beginner completing a cake like this, I would be proud. Because can you imagine serving this to a burger lover? It would take them a minute to realize that it's not a burger, it's a cake. Even if I say so myself. Okay? So, do you think, if you're joining the chat, do you think you will be attempting this burger cake? Burger cake, burger cake. We made it. We made it. Let's welcome to the chat. So looking at the cake burger is making you hungry. I guess I did a good thing then. I guess I did. So Les, what do you think? Does it look like a burger? Is it a burger you will eat? This looks like a very oily and a healthy burger from Five Guys. Okay, this is Five Guys looking, because the last time I got a burger, I remember pressing it down and I could feel the oil oozing out of it, and I'm like, what a mess. But I'm eating it, and I ate it. Okay, I am not coming for you, my American people. You know I love you, but I saw a comment somewhere on this internet street that said, okay, I'll just leave that alone, okay? I'll just leave that alone. But yeah, the comment was underneath some of these foods that you know are so unhealthy. Remember, sometimes when you're scrolling along and you see a food that is not supposed to be a thing, but it is, like you have toast that is filled with all a pizza, and then it's deep fried. It's like a pizza sandwich. Like, who makes a pizza sandwich and then drops it in eggs and then coats it and then deep fries it, and when it comes out, it's like it's a hot heart disease in food form. But it's so good you will lick your fingers away. Okay? And the person left the comment and said, oh, Americans eat as if their healthcare is free. No truer words. I'm going to just leave that alone. So this looks like my healthcare is free. Oh, Lord. Yeah. If you're in the UK, you know you can eat this burger, okay? No guilt attached. Okay? No guilt attached. Just eat your burger and call 911. Is it 911? No, we don't do 911. We call, what do we do now? I have no idea. What do we do now? Do we call? No, we call 999, right? And then now it's even 111, isn't it? I don't know. 999 for us. Lollipop. That's saying a lot, isn't it? Okay. Oh, Lord. You know what? I'm not mad about people who want to eat a pizza sandwich. It is those ones who put the pizza sandwich and then they add oh God, I I just said that. I explained that earlier. It's a mess. Okay? So, yeah. Lollipop, you know what I mean. So, yeah. For those of us in the UK, we will eat this burger, okay? Even if it's oozing oil, I will eat it and I'll have to worry about dealing with that unqualified person later, okay? That aside, bruschetto and buffalo mozzarella with pesto. Olivia, you're back. Yeah, Olivia, you were with us yesterday. Welcome to the chat. Yeah. Olivia, we managed to finish our cake, but we're also talking about how unhealthy this burger looks. I like to go to Five Guys and eat a burger, but I know when I go to Five Guys, it's a mess. But I like their chips, which is why the chips here looks very rustic. We are not in McDonald's, okay? We are not in McDonald's. I'll leave that alone. But I tell you which burger and chips I love. I love TGI Fridays. Their potato fries with Jack Daniel's sauce. Can you see I'm daydreaming that sort of food? That food is good, my sister. I won't even lie. Okay? Okay, let's just make a cake. Okay? If you can't take me for a meal, I'll just make my own. That is essentially the energy I'm giving here is, if you don't want to take me for a meal, that's fine. I'll make my own food. So I made my own burger. So if anybody doesn't want to take me for a meal, they can go away. Okay? I will just come home and make my own meal in a burger form. And that will be more exciting. Yeah, I guess that goes to say, oh, yes, this is a once in a lifetime burger where you go out with your girls and you're like, you know what? I've been drinking them green smoothies for a long time. And I know this burger is going to wreck my system, but I don't care. Okay? Let's just eat the damn burger. And so that's the burger. That's the burger. I'm not even mad about the burger. I want me a burger like that. Who wouldn't? I think I just want a bit of color in there. So, yeah. But you know what? If you've been eating super healthy and super clean, the day you eat this burger, you know you're going to be stuck in your toilet for a lifetime, right? Your tummy is going to feel weird. But you know what? You only live once. You only live once. You only live once. What am I looking for here? I am looking for my okay. Olivia, what have you missed? You missed the part where my teacup fell over and broke, which is upset me a lot. And okay, let's see. I'm just adding a little bit in there. You know what? After I have eaten a burger like this, I just want to go to sleep. There's nothing to say to me that I want to hear. I don't want to hear anything. I want to go to sleep. I do have that thing where after eating, I just want to go to sleep. So, yeah, that would be me. Olivia, I know. So some days you've just got to watch you first before you go stuffing your face in anything else that will wreck your tummy, isn't it? Olivia, do you bake? Oh, okay. Lollipop. That's a bummer, isn't it? I'm just adding some more things to just highlight the color and bring a bit of dimension to the cake. Okay, I think now that I can see the red in there, okay. Right. That said, I think there is one last thing we haven't done, and that is the sesame seeds on the burger. I did put some sesame seeds. I did make some sesame seeds from fondant, but I left them in a bowl and they all squished. So I have only a little bit left here just to add to the top, but I actually have real sesame seeds. So if you're a beginner, don't be scared to add. Let me just get that. If you're a beginner, don't be scared to get actual sesame seeds. These are sesame seeds I got. But do know that some people are allergic to them. So you know what? I am not opposed to cheating your way sometimes. Why should I suffer? Sesame seeds are edible anyway, so why should I suffer? I don't want to suffer. So let's put some sesame seeds on the burger. Okay, there you have it. I think I'm done. Okay. I'm done. Today is not working out in this kitchen. Okay, at least it didn't break. So there you go. Right, good people, our burger cake is done. I'm doing my happy dance. See? I am so happy. Yep. The seeds on top brings the burger to life, isn't it? See? Right, that's a burger cake. A burger cake. You know, the song that is in my head. It's the song we are all singing lately. I'm sure if you think about it, you will know. There you go. There you go. There you go. There. Oh, it's got to be in an episode of Is It Cake? Well, you know, if we stick here long enough and you guys support me long enough, you never know. We'll make it to that show. Okay? Is It Cake? I am so happy. We made it. We made it. We made it. We made it. It's a burger cake. 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 I think I'm kind of, I am missing in the chat, so probably I'll catch up on it later. But yeah, so let's talk burger cakes. Who wants to eat a burger? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Olivia. Olivia, Tapita, and Lollipop. Thank you. You know what? At this point, anything is possible. To end up on that show would be such a nice thing. So who knows? Netflix, hello. Hello. But there's a time and a season for all things. So you never know. Let's keep the fun going and let's keep entertaining each other and looking after each other. And a day will come when that would happen. I am not even like surprised. I don't think it's an impossible thing, you know. So yeah, you guys just let's stay with each other. Let's stay supportive of what we are all doing and continue the fun. And let's not forget why we're here, which is to support each other, to make cakes, to bring joy, and to keep going. And you never know. I can't imagine the number of people whose lives have been changed because they decided to put what they loved into the world with passion and to bring joy to other people. So, yeah, it won't be a surprise to me at all. But that said, what do we think about the burger cake? Come on. Let's see what you guys thinking about the burger cake. I know Lollipop will be off for the school run shortly. We started on time. We started at 1, 10 past 1. So We'll probably be finishing our lollipop. Thank you. Lollipop will give me a 5-star, even with all the chaos happening in the kitchen. What a lovely thing to know. Thank you so very much. But yeah, I think I kind of have missed out on the chat, so I'll be catching up with you guys in the chat. But yes, I know it's a fat burger, but it's really a burger. I know, Olivia. Yeah. You know what? That's true. At the end of the day, here's the intention: to make a burger and then to make it your burger. So is this a burger? From every angle, everyone can agree it's a burger. Is the detail specific? No. And the non-specific nature of the details of this cake tells you to adapt it for yourself. So what's my interpretation of this burger cake? A crusty, oily burger cake. No, a crusty, oily burger with an overly toasted bun and rustic chips. Now that's a bunch of words put together, aka word salad. But that's my burger. Okay, now if someone made it and it was a little bit finer and clearer, they would think that's like a freshly made burger. Yes, so the theme here is that it's a burger cake, but it is your burger cake. So that's how I like my Five Guys oily mess of a burger. But it's okay, it's okay. I'm not mad. So Olivia, stick around. And it looks like the sort of burger that is not cooked in a... I say Five Guys because Five Guys do tend to lend themselves to the rustic nature of how they serve their burger wrapped up and then the cups and stuff. But if you take that aside, this looks like the burger you get in a food van or the burger that you get served at a proper barbecue. So it's the burger where the buns are grilled on the burner and it's toasted for you. Do you know what I mean? So the whole point of making realistic cakes like this or close to actual items is to open it up to interpretation, and with that interpretation you could tell a whole story about this thing. So what if you're asked, what were you thinking when you made this, you can take them through a story moment about it. So essentially that was it. So it's not just any burger, it's your burger, and then you can add the story to the burger. So why is this your burger? Well, because it's a burger that I imagine with the bun grilled on a very busy stove where you've grilled the chicken and the beef, as in beef steaks already. So by the time you come to put in the burger on it, you're not going to get a clean bun. You're going to get a toasted, sort of patchy, burnt, overly oily bun with a very greasy burger dripping with oil. But oh boy, will I die eating that burger. Yeah, I'm willing to die on that hill. And yeah, so that's our burger, and that's it for today, my people. There will be much of the burger photos up on the community post, and definitely I will be back posting about this in short form when I can. What have we learned today? A lot. Now here's a question for you. Would you be trying this burger? And oh, let's answer this question in the chat. Do you think we fulfilled, even though the burger looks like a burger and it looks amazing and it's melting and it's raw and it's wrong, do you think that the steps and techniques that I employed to create the burger are still beginner focused? Do you think so? Especially if you haven't made a burger cake before and you have to make this cake, do you think this is beginner focused for you? We have Taco Bell here, but I haven't eaten over there before. I used to love Frankie's and Benny's. I remember one time when I went to O2 Arena. Who did we see in O2? I think we went to see, it was either Neo. This was years ago anyway. We went to see Neo, or I can't remember. I've seen Neo perform live before, and Russell Howard. He is a UK based comedian. So anyway, whatever happened, we were in the O2 for either of these events. I'm not sure which one. And then after the show, we ended up in the O2 sort of arena. And if you go to the O2, you have different like outlets, and there's a busy nightlife there. And we stopped in Frankie's and Benny's for a burger. Best burger ever. I'm not talking gourmet burger, okay? So all of you foodies over there, don't come for me. I'm talking about like fast food type of burger. Best burger ever. It was a burger with the patty so lumpy. It felt like it was handmade, and it had black bean sauce. Ooh. My cheeks are filled even thinking about it. It was good, okay? But I think, has Frankie's and Benny's closed? I think so. So anyway, that is just me, and when I used to eat my paycheck like there was no tomorrow. I haven't had Tim Hortons before. Oh, well, I'm sure we can talk about food. For those of you who love Taco Bell and wherever you like your burger, there is no burger that beats making your own burger like this burger cake. So try it out. Come and tell us all about it. Lollipop. How you know Taco Bell is a good cure for hangover whilst you don't drink is like wild, isn't it? Anyway, talking about hangover, we could as well eat the burger and have a drink and then be done. Or which one first? The drink first and the burger. Which one? People, if you ever see this bottle, it's for painting, okay? I don't drink. But let me just clarify. I don't drink, but I'm not a tea. What do they call? Like, when I say I don't drink, it's not like I hate. I'm typically a 2 cocktail girl. In a year, you'll see me with 2 cocktails, as in one for my birthday and one perhaps for Christmas. That's all. That's the amount of drinking I do. That's all. Okay. And for the cocktail, we're talking a mojito or a pina colada. That's all. Okay. So when I say I don't drink, I think the context is you won't find me drinking alcohol for any reason. Like, no, but pass me a cocktail, I don't mind, on my birthday or Christmas when everybody wants to put their feet up. Yeah, but otherwise, give me water, give me apple juice, give me a mocktail. Actually, the thing that weaned me off, I've never been a drinker. Growing up in Ghana, culturally, girls don't drink. It's not like you shouldn't drink, but you were brought up so proper and made to feel like drinking is not a girl's thing. So anyway, I think I had my first taste of alcohol when I came to the UK, and I was past 20. Can you imagine how wild that was? Anyway, so I don't drink, but if you pass me a cocktail maybe twice a year, I would say thank you and move along. This year though, I didn't drink on my birthday at all. And the thing that actually weed me off a cocktail now is I won't. If I have a cocktail and a mocktail, which would I go for? I'll go for a mocktail because my sister makes some wicked mocktails. And I had a friend who actually used to make some amazing cocktails as well, like homemade cocktails. So the alcohol, like she used to get a pineapple liqueur, and Aldi used to carry that. They don't anymore. She used to get pineapple liqueur. She mixed it with ginger ale and some stuff. The stuff was so good, but I don't drink, so I'm such a lightweight. With 1 glass of pina colada, I'm like, where's my bed at, people? I'm gonna go sleep. I don't have the energy for this. And now look at you telling me about my life, okay? That's just by the way. Yeah, a cocktail most of the time. Yeah, virgin cocktail, mocktail. So right now, if you gave me a cocktail and a mocktail, which would I go for? I'll go for a mocktail because I like the sweetness of it. I like how it feels. Because a cocktail, it's quick and it's gone. And then I want more. And then I'll risk getting drunk. I don't want that drama in my life. Okay? Oh, Lord. Yeah, I don't want that drama. So, yeah, that will be me on a virgin or a complete mocktail. That said, it's nearly 3 p.m. I've got stuff to do. So, our cake is done. Thank you to those who joined us yesterday and today. Olivia, we are grateful to have you for today and for the mad fun we are having. Tapita, Lollipop, it's school run time, my dear. You better get on the move. Tapita, it's mom app already. Pass my hacks. And if you're just joining in, game over. I'm sure I'll be back tomorrow to discuss this cake. And we have our weathered flower pot. We'll be talking some more. Tomorrow we're not baking or doing anything. Are we? Tomorrow we're not doing anything. Tomorrow we are going to be undertaking some simple baking because I have some cakes to go. So I'll be inviting you to the kitchen to talk about that. And then we'll be talking about some tips for achieving great results with hyper-realistic cake or simple realistic objects like this one. So join us on tomorrow's live again, same time, UK time, 1 p.m. and it will be fun. Olivia, look after yourself. Thank you for being here. Tapita, hugs to mom. Lollipop, I'll see you soon. For the rest of you, take care and thank you for your time. As always, much love.